Hi, I'm Sam from Interface. We're Bitrix24 Gold partners. Thank you very much for joining today. Okay, so first of all, we'll just go through an introduction. So I'm Sam Connor. I'm sales manager here at Interface, and we are Bitrix24 Gold partners. And we're based here in the UK. We're in the US and Hong Kong, and we offer a full range of services to assist you with Bitrix24. So starting off with pre-sale support, so we can help you to evaluate the Bitrix24 system and see if it can be a good fit for what you're trying to achieve. If it is, we can then set up the system for you, so we can design it out exactly how you need it to work. We can then also provide hosting for an on-premise version of Bitrix, and we can then provide training and ongoing support to really help you maximize the value that you get from the Bitrix24 system. Okay, so today's webinar is total telephony. So we're going to be looking at the telephony functionality within Bitrix24. But just before we do that, let's just discuss a little about what Bitrix24 actually is if you're starting to evaluate the system. So Bitrix24 is a collaboration suite of well in excess now of 40 different tools that you can use to help you to manage your business. And there are over 15 million businesses around the world that use the Bitrix24 system. And the system is available in two different editions. So we have the Bitrix24 Cloud and we have the Bitrix24 self-hosted solution. And in terms of pricing, so prices start from $49 per month for a cloud-based system and $3,590 for an on-premise version. And that's in the first year. And then in year two and ongoing annually, you'll pay a 50% renewal fee to continue to access the system. Okay, so let's start to look at why we should use Bitrix24 as your telephony integration system. So it has some really powerful telephony integrated features. So you've got a built-in phone system. So it's actually very simple to set up and start to use telephony within Bitrix. We can integrate with existing PBX if you want to integrate your existing phone lines. There is CRM integration, so some really nice features within the CRM. You've got reporting available, so we can do dashboard reports to analyze that core data. And it is a fairly low cost. So we'll discuss some different elements of pricing. There's a few different things to, I guess, take into consideration if you're going to be looking at Bitrix telephony. So we'll go through those options. Okay, and before we have a look at this system in detail, I just want to go through what options we have for Bitrix telephony. So first of all, option one, it is Bitrix24 Telephony. And this option here, this is renting a Bitrix24 number. So just to be making you aware here, this would be a brand new number, okay, that you're going to rent from Bitrix24. So you can't use an existing phone number that you currently use. Or the other option is an integration. So if it's critical that you keep your existing phone number and phone infrastructure, then there's options for integration. So we'll look at both of these options today. Okay, so let's start off by looking at Bitrix24 Telephony. So we'll see how we can rent a number. We'll see then how we can set up a virtual phone system, and then we'll see how that integrates with the CRM and application. Okay, so let's move over to our Bitrix system. So what we're going to look at today is available on both the cloud and the on-premise version of Bitrix. If there's any certain features where you need to be on a certain tier of the cloud, then I'll make you aware of that. Okay, so first of all, we just want to go into the telephony module. So you should be able to see this here from the left-hand side of your menu, or you can just search in the top here, type in telephony, and you'll see that in the system. So we're going to look first at Bitrix24 Telephony. So this is renting a number directly from Bitrix24. So let's say here, if I wanted to rent a UK number, I can select here then the type, so whether it's a local, mobile, national, toll-free number, I can select that there. And then inside here, I can select the region for what I want to rent that number for. So here, for example, if I want to rent a local number for Darlington, it's going to cost me, I say approximately $6 a month. It can vary depending on the country, but you're looking at around $4 to $6 per month to rent the number. Now, inbound calls are included within that monthly rate, and outbound calls, they are charged per minute based on the country that you are calling to. And these here are those outbound call rates. So I'm just going to put that into the YouTube channel box. So if you want to take a look at that, you can have a look at those call rates on the platform. Okay. One other thing to bear in mind as well, and as you can see on here, it's identifying that you've got to upload a valid postal address for this location. So if you're going to be renting a number, you need to show proof that you have a valid address in that country to be able to rent that number. So you're going to need to upload that verification document into the system here. Okay. Now, one thing I'll just point out here, obviously, you probably don't want all of your users going into here and renting numbers freely. Okay. So what we can do is we can put permissions in place so we can create different roles inside the system. And based on those roles, we can then configure the options here. So for telephony settings, you probably deny access for most user roles, apart from admins or managers, to be able to actually set up and rent those numbers in the platform. So you've got that edit permission area in the system. And then once we have rented that number, it's going to display here in the My Numbers section. So say if you rent 4 or 5 numbers, each one of those numbers will show inside here. And for each number, we can then set up essentially a virtual phone system. So it's really flexible, so we can customize if every number we set up, the call routing for inbound and outbound processing. We can configure the integration with the CRM. So you can really personalize the setup on every single number that we rent through Bitrix. Okay. So first of all, let's have a look at inbound call routing so we can configure the welcome message for them and what information gets processed during the setup. A really useful feature is we can set up a voice menu. So essentially, it's an IVR menu that we can configure. So when the customer calls in, we can give the customer clear instructions to help them navigate through to the correct team or departments within the organization. So inside here, we've already set up some groups, which I'll show you shortly. So let's say press 1 for sales. Let's say we can press 2 for support. Okay, so that's what the routing is going to be on this menu. And we can then put in here the message that will get relayed to the client when they call in. Okay, so that's the message. We can configure the language, the speed, and the volume that the message gets relayed to the customer. Or alternatively, you could actually upload your own audio file if you want to maybe personalize that message even more. Okay, and so that is a really nice way to be able to start the customer journey in a very professional way, routing the call to the correct person, really at the correct stage of the operation with the client. And those groups that we set up, so you can see here, we have a default group and we can then add users to that group, but you can set up different groups here. You can create new groups. I can go into an existing group and configure the settings on there for who's in that group, what the distribution of the calls are, how many rings before changing to the next person. So there's a lot of different settings you could set up on every single queue group that you create inside Bitrix. Okay, moving on to look at the integration here with the CRM. So there's different options. So you can turn this on here. We can automatically create a new lead if the number that's calling in is not already associated to a record inside the system. So it's a really nice way to automate that creation. What we can also do within here is we can turn on call recordings. So this is going to save every single call against the record within the CRM system. So that's really valuable because what we can then do is using the Copilot AI built into Bitrix is you can have that call recording transcribed. So you get the full call transcription and you also get a shorter call summary that summarizes the key elements of what the conversation was. And that's all included with the renting of the number. So most people turn this call recording on. You can also play a warning message for inbound calls to make the customer aware of this. And you can set up working hours. Okay, so when our call's going to be answered with different time parameters. And then for out of hours call processing, there's different options that are available for you to set up. And so that's how we can set up the virtual phone system for every single number that we create inside the system. So now what we can do, if we go into our CRM system, let's go into one of our contacts. So inside here, we're in the contact database. And you can see here, this is what the call recordings look like inside the CRM. So we can see the inbound call, when it took place, who answered it from our team. We can then play through the system. Okay. And if we've integrated telephony, we can click to call directly through the Bitrix system. So there's you have that call saved inside the platform. Or what you can also do is actually maybe if you've got a bulk load of leads inside the system, I could select those leads and I could start dialing through the system here. So you've got a semi-automated dialer system that we can then start to run our outbound calls through the platform. So having that integrated telephony is really valuable for having that call history saved into the CRM system. Okay. Or another alternative, and a lot of businesses use this feature, is from here, what we could actually do is we could then create different options on here for, I'm going to say, marketing material or campaigns. So it doesn't just have to be maybe sending a call. If you wanted to actually create a segment or send this as a marketing campaign, you've got different options within this action block that you can create. Okay, so we've got the dialing feature, but there's additional features here as well that you can also use to set up different functionality once you've bulk captured a specific group of leads in the platform. Okay, and so I won't go through the CRM in too much detail today because we do have a CRM webinar. But if I just go into the Kanban view here, just to explain, we have stages that we progress our leads through. So it's a completely customizable lead process that you can set up here. So it's really flexible. But what we also have here are automations. So at different stages of the process, you could set up automated actions that take place. And one of the options that you have is the ability to track calls, but we can also set up a robocall in the system here. So for example, as soon as the lead is coming into our CRM system, I'm going to dynamically populate this. And then within here, what we can then do is I can put different information from the record. So it's going to be a personalized phone call. Okay, so we can then choose, again, whether that's text or an audio file for relaying the message out through the system. And we can then configure the speed and language of that through the platform here. So we have the ability to really customize the process for an outbound telephony call process. Okay, so that is a look at the integration with the CRM system, and that's how we then create the setup using Bitrix telephony for renting a phone number in the system. So you can see how simple it is to create that setup. Okay, and then the next option we have is an integration. So this is the second option for telephony inside Bitrix. So if you are not open to using a new number, if you need to keep your existing phone numbers, maybe you've got a really low call rate with your phone provider, maybe just for having the same phone number because your customers use that number, you need to keep it. What we would then have to look at is an integration. And there are different ways you can integrate into Bitrix. So we have the SIP connector. So that's connecting an Office or cloud PBX. There's an option to use a third-party app to integrate, or we can use the API to build a custom integration. So let's take a look at those options in some more detail here. So if we go back into telephony, the first option which we discussed there is using the SIP connector. So you can use this on either Office or a cloud PBX. So it just depends what type of PBX that you have. But on both options, what you can do is you can connect the cloud PBX here. So this opens up a form with credentials that you have to fill in to then integrate your PBX into Bitrix. Once you've connected, you have 60 minutes for free to configure and test outbound calls to make sure the connection works. And then you can buy the SIP connector to have that integrated. So you can connect on the Office PBX, you can connect as many PBXs as you like. On the cloud PBX, you can connect up to 10 PBXs using the SIP connector. And the SIP connector will cost $49 per month to rent. And then your numbers will sync into the system. Okay, so that's the first option for an integration. The second option is using the marketplace where you can rent from an application store here. Okay, so there are different types of phone providers that have applications within the App Store, and each provider may have different functionality that they provide. Okay, but quite a popular one is Ring Central. So you can then connect your Ring Central system into Bitrix24 and have that seamless integration and have the calls recorded in your Bitrix platform. So that's another option you can take a look at. One thing to bear in mind, even though a lot of these applications are free, some may have a cost or some may be restricted to certain tiers of an application. So for example, you may need to have a specific tier of Ring Central plan to use the application. So it's something to take a look at as well. So that's the second option. So if the PBX isn't going to work or your phone provider doesn't have an integration in the App Store, the third way is to use the API that's available on Bitrix to create a custom integration with your phone provider. Now, That can cost between 15 to 20,000 US dollars, depending on the complexity. So something to bear in mind. If that's something you're interested in, though, then we can discuss that with you. We have set up connections using the API for companies previously. So those are the options there for integration. Okay, if there are any questions, please do put them into the question box. We've discussed quite a lot already today about pricing, but if I just cover that again here, in terms of the call rates, first of all, so I'll put the call rates into the YouTube channel box here. So you're going to pay $46 per month for renting the number. There could also be a one-off connection cost to connect the number. And then inbound calls are included in the monthly rental of the number. And outbound calls, they're charged per minute based on the country that you are calling to. Okay. If you're going to use the SIP connector, so connecting a PBX, then that's going to cost approximately $49 per month for renting of the SIP connector. And then, as we've just discussed, if you're going to create a custom integration, that could really range from, say, 15 to 20,000 US dollars for a bespoke integration. Okay, so, and finally, moving on to look at reporting within the telephony system. So if we come back into the telephony module here, if you have permissions, you can access the call details tab. So this will show all of the history of the calls that take place. You'll see the recordings if you have the recording feature turned on. And you can customize the layout of this table. You can customize and filter through the data, and you can also export this out of Excel. So you can capture and essentially take the data out of Bitrix if you want to. And another really nice feature is the call statistics tool. So inside here, we can then build out dashboard reports that analyzes the information from our system. So a really nice feature, such as the call density map. So we can then see when we're missing calls, when we're frequently answering calls. So this is really useful for resource scheduling. Say if you're a call center, you need to be allocating people to these areas of time where we're missing calls. And there's also employee performance dashboards. So we can analyze through the telephony functionality the performance of our employees in the system here. So that's the functionality we have, alongside obviously having the recordings inside the CRM system. So that brings us to an end of today's Total Telephony webinar. So we've seen how we can set up a virtual phone system inside Bitrix, renting a number, have the ability to integrate phone lines into Bitrix, so using either the SIP connector, a third-party app, or a custom integration to feed your existing phone lines and provider into Bitrix. We have a really nice integration with the CRM to have all of that data and call recordings connected into the CRM. And as we've just seen, you have that reporting capability there to build out dashboard reports of the information on the telephony module. And of course, as we discussed, it is a very low cost starting point from $46 a month for renting of a number. Okay, so here are a selection of our up and coming webinars. So we're here every other Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern time. You can register at intraface.com/webinars. So thank you very much for your time today. If you do have any questions in the meantime before our next webinar, you can contact us, sales@intraface.com, and one of our team will be happy to discuss your needs in more detail. So thank you very much for your time today. I look forward to seeing you all again in the near future. Bye now.